what we are also seeing, but at the same time, and I have here the numbers for the last 2 years, we're talking about 2.2 billion of volume in real estate, only in buffers. 2.2 billion. I mean, huge.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Cyprus. Today we have with us Pavlos Loizou, the CEO and co-founder of Askwire. Pavlos, welcome to our studio.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
So, Pavlo, just to start and to put everybody on the same field, if you could take some time to talk about yourself, the company, and your experience so far in the industry in Cyprus.
Of course. So I've been in real estate for the last 2 decades. Started off as a valuer, then as an asset manager dealing with distressed real estate across the Balkans, mainly Greece, Romania, Serbia, Montenegro, and unfortunately Cyprus. And over the last 4 years, I co-founded Askwire, a real estate data analytics company active now in Cyprus, Greece, and Romania, where we collect data not only about the real estate market, but about real estate in general. So, earthquakes, soil quality, floods, wildfire, that side of it, the whole ESG side. Obviously, the real estate market, so who is buying, who is selling, what is under construction, how the cities are changing, what developers are building, how that's changing. And then on the back of that, and we're very happy that we have all these machine learning and AI tools, we have been able to develop various KPIs as to whether the market is moving up or down, to value properties automatically, and then to generate various reports and other indices that are used by banks, insurers, and developers.
It's true. It's a very innovative approach. It's something that, on one hand, you would think that such tools should be easily accessible, but then again, in a smaller market like Cyprus, maybe that's one of the reasons why nobody attempted to do it at this scale before. Personally, because I've seen the platforms, I can safely say that they work brilliantly and they're very, very useful. Would you say that most people, most professionals in the market that see those platforms stay with you? What's like
our retention? Yeah. So we have 97% retention rate until now. So if you sign up, you don't go back. And the main reason is that so what we do in the case of Cyprus, other than having all the environmental data and that part, we take the data from the land registry, and we have it from the 1st of January 16, and we clean it every month. So, these are houses, these are apartments, whatever. We map everything up to detail. We enrich that data by collecting brochures from developers so that we enter the floor, the square meters of the properties that are under construction, which that also allows us to map the sales progress of every project and every developer. So that gives competitive comparison between the developers. And then also every night we crawl and collect all the asking prices, both from the main platforms, but also from Gordian, Altamira, all those guys. So on the one hand, you have about 200,000 transactions, actual transactions from the land registry that have been cleansed. On the other, you have about 40,000, 50,000 asking prices and asking rents. So when you say to someone, look, you can have all of this on your phone, right? On your phone. So, you're out, you're looking for a property to buy or to sell, whatever. Then for them to turn around and say, actually, I don't want it. I'm going to call a mate or I'm going to get somebody together. Well, it becomes a bit awkward. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I think that the tricky bit is for users to be convinced to get on the platform. That's the hardest, right? Once they're on the platform, they're like, really, these things are happening. And I think that's where we want to take it, so that we create this. It becomes the norm that you have access to this level of transparency.
And I'm guessing, because you mentioned it, you guys are active in 3 countries, you said so far. In terms of the difficulty in setting something like that up, starting from Cyprus and then comparing it with Greece and Romania, what would you say were the main obstacles in the beginning?
Yeah.
which maybe some of them are insisting.
Continuing, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why you said unfortunately Cyprus in the beginning.
Correct. Is look, let me start with the good thing for a moment, and we'll do many bad things, right? So the good things is that in the EU there are two directives, which is the highest authority, let's say, that commands in essence countries to do. One is called the Open Data Directive that forces governments to open their databases to third parties, so you can have access to statistics from like we have in Cyprus from SciStat, in Greece from Elstat, and so on and so forth. Then also you have the Inspire Directive that standardizes the data that comes out of the cadastral. So the green parcels of land that we have on our cadastre, the same ones that you're going to find in Romania, in Malta, in Germany, etc. So that is forcing governments to comply with opening their data to companies like ourselves. That's the one good thing. The second good thing is that because of after COVID or during COVID, the EU raised about 800 billion. It borrowed money, and it split that budget into 400 billion for the green transition, photovoltaics, renewables, all the stuff, and the other 400 billion is on digitalization. So in order for countries to access that funds, they need to digitalize a lot of their operations and stuff like that. So you have these two things working to our favor in that more data needs to become public and governments are taking the actions to do so. On the other hand, what you have is that different countries are opening up their data at different speeds. And this is what is causing a lot of problems. At the same time, our part of the world, especially as you move into the Balkans, which we did by choice because clearly Western Europe and Northern Europe are further advanced, has not only digitalization is behind, let's say the majority of the people are not so keen on tech. Younger people, yes. Older people, not so much. They're more skeptical. And then also there are some murky areas when it comes to transactions, money under the table, and stuff like that. So it's hard to operate. The good thing with Cyprus is that the small size of the 1 million plus the quality of the cadastral means that we could start off building our MVP and our prototype here, and then we move the tech to the other jurisdictions. What it also did is that, and I know this is very strange, but the size of our island is great for an MVP. So we took the data from the land registry, and then to check that the land registry was right, we went and inspected 400 houses physically. Right? How are you going to do it in Romania when to go from north to south? So we were able to test these types of things and learn on what we were able to call the Department of Seismology and have a meeting with them and say, look, we're getting the data from you. How do you find it? Because it's the same data we found in Romania. It's just that the Cypriots were more easy to approach and say, hey guys, how do we do it? So this is the good thing that we did with Cyprus. As I said, the difficulty is that, so the good thing of the size of the market is that it makes it easier to build and reach out to people. On the other side, the hard thing is that the small size of the country means that the business, from a business model perspective, is not sustainable. So we knew we needed to build and move. We also took advantage of the tax advantages that the country gives. Which is in our case, is the IP box, the intellectual property box. So that allows us to develop IP in Cyprus and be taxed at a lower rate. We also applied and received the certificate of innovation from the Deputy Ministry of Digital Transformation, which allows investors investing in our company and others, of course, to receive various tax breaks. And the majority of the capital that we have raised until now, which is 2.5 million from investors, has actually come from Cypriots who live in Cyprus, because yes, Cypriots, and I recognize that I spoke too much. Yes, Cyprus is small, but we are unique in how much, not only do we have real estate, because a lot of the Mediterranean is real estate, but we're actually quite good at dealing with real estate. So it's real estate as a profession. It's not, when you go to Romania and you sit down with the real estate professionals there, yes, they're very professional, but not to the extent their say or the breadth of expertise like we have here. Here in
No, that's
Albania.
good to hear. That's very good to hear.
No, I mean, here, you have pros that are doing the job, usually second, sometimes third generation who are doing this thing. So we are able not only to transfer the know-how on the real estate and the tech side and all the tax risk, whatever, but also the know-how of, we sit together, you and I say, look, actually, these are the KPIs, and I can take this knowledge and go and sit in front of somebody in Bucharest and say, look, have you ever thought about doing it this way?
Third generation.
Well,
So data-driven approach to real estate.
yeah, 100%.
How do you think this shaped real estate sector in Cyprus?
Look, things are changing because I think in Cyprus, starting from the banking side, we had three on the funding side, so getting loan from a bank. It started off with who I am, right? I am Mr. So-and-so, fortunately very sexist, but Mr. So I'm Mr. So-and-so, you know me, so I'm lending you money regardless of what you have. Then, which was part of what caused the crisis, was I have all these assets, which is land in the middle of nowhere, but I have all these assets, so you lend me money and everybody's happy. And now we moved into cash flow. So you need a business plan. What are you going to build? How much it's going to cost you? When are you going to sell? Rate of sale and that type of. The moment we move into cash flows and you need to make assumptions, you need data to put the numbers on. And then from the moment that our market has changed, and now we have, not only do you have a quarter of the population being foreigners, but also a significant part of the and the transactions are about 40% foreigners, more so in Pavlos than anywhere else. But also you have foreign investors who are now living here, not only just as end buyers, but as investors themselves. These guys, they recognize the value of data and insights, and they recognize also that when the prices are at 2,000 euro, a mistake of 5% up or down, okay, but when we're talking about 6, 8, 10,000 euro, a 5% change has a huge impact, especially when we're also talking about bigger projects. So we're seeing take-up being more by foreigners and by companies who are transitioning from I'm building two houses, you are more contractor, developer dude, to the bigger guys have taken up the platform.
And basically, combining your last two answers, if I may, it's something that we see ourselves as well in the last few years. The fact that companies here are becoming more and more professional because we, let's say, demand to attract foreigners, or some might say rely on them on that market. We needed to become better. We needed to innovate. We needed to get closer to their standards, which is true that for some cases in more developed markets like in Europe, maybe Israel that we see lately, or some other like countries in the north, some things were given for them. And when they started coming, they said, okay, nice, it's a very nice place, this is nice, but in terms of real estate, if you guys really want to become competitive with other countries, you need to get better. And from my point of view, at least what I see is that we got the message. Everybody in the industry, we are trying to get better. And I think that if you compare the quality today, not only in terms of the actual assets, but also professionalism, is nowhere near what it was maybe only 5-10 years ago.
100%.
And I think like that's the trajectory we are following. We are rising the barriers of entry, let's say, which is not always a bad thing, because at the end of the day, in these kind of markets, you measure the quality of the market by its weakest link. So if you allow less professional people in the market, it means that the whole market is perceived to be less professional as well. But from my point of view, companies offering the services like you guys at Esquire offer, it needs to start becoming the norm. So
Yeah,
it's good that somebody
I agree.
started it.
Look, I agree with your assessment, and this is sort of, why did we start, or how did we end up where we ended up? It's all a result, an unfortunate result or a positive result of the crisis. Because the crisis, what it did, it required the banks in the first instance to become real estate owners, which they never wanted to be in the first place. It forced them to create all these property management, asset management, sales team, whatever, with asset management in Cyprus. Who ever
Yeah,
heard
yeah, yeah.
about real estate asset management? No one, right? Processes, how you get, so you have these big organizations that were set up. All the developers had to change and say, look, I have financial problems. I need to manage my cash flow different. I need to go overseas, which a lot of people did. To go to the Gulf, to go to Russia, to go to other countries. We were boosted, obviously, by the government's naturalization scheme and everything else that came from that. And rightfully, as you said, these caused both the banks to view real estate in a different way, the people who interacted with these large organizations to work differently. And because the foreigners came, again, like you said, and they demanded more things that for them was the norm, we all had to change. And the one thing that we're good at is change. Because this country is, you don't get bored. I mean, yes,
For
we
sure.
are, 2 hours to go from one end to the other and half an hour to go. Yeah, but things do not get boring. If you are bored in Cyprus, there's something wrong.
Yeah, and it's what you said. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and you need this agility, you need this flexibility in order to survive, right? But this is an excellent skill to have in this era, not just in Cyprus in general, where where information is changing, it's multiplying in an unbelievable rate, where things change every day. You see what's happening in our neighborhoods, wars and this and that, and I think that this ability, because I think it's a skill that Cypriots have to basically change, has proven to be very useful. And I know that sometimes we say in the last few years that we are lucky. Cyprus got lucky of this, Cyprus got lucky of the other, which is true, but you cannot get lucky all the time.
Yeah.
You need a certain skill.
Yes, you can't. Correct. And exactly this adaptability. I think that the thing that to turn it a slightly gloomier, let's say, is that those who will adapt, great. Unfortunately, a significant chunk of the population is not adapting.
Right.
And I think this is something to be concerned about. This is sort of one, and we're happy to go into that. I think the second bit to note is that as digitalization is happening, I mean, what did we see? Real estate 20 years ago, let's go 10, 20 years ago, or even was I am buying my house, I am buying a holiday home, and those very, very few were able, they had the financial muscle to acquire some real estate to rent out. That was it. When we jump now and you start and say, I'm investing in listed vehicles that invest in real estate. I have funds, Airbnb, different types of platforms, short-term led, medium-term led, whatever, joint ventures and everything like that. We have seen over the last 15 years the financialization of real estate. So real estate has gone from bricks and mortar to being a financial instrument or a financial product, which again requires numbers and everything else. But once the numbers become standardized, and I was talking to a competitor, not really, who is active in the Netherlands, they were telling me that the number of banking institutions in the Netherlands who give mortgages has tripled in the last 5 years because banks from other countries are now able to give a loan in the Netherlands because you have the same license. You passport your license from, let's say, Spain to the Netherlands, so that's fine. Everything is done digitally, everything is electronically connected, stuff like that. So there is no reason for you not to give loans anywhere. It's like you have in Greece, you have Bulgarian banks, Portuguese banks, and I think this is the thing when it comes to the financial sector here is that, how are our banks, for example, going to react when it comes to, I don't know, a bank from Germany giving a loan to Cyprus? It's going to happen at some point.
It is, it's true. And so far, most of the expertise that they have is basically, I am buying an asset in Cyprus and I get a mortgage in Germany, but that mortgage is not necessarily linked to the asset in Cyprus. I'm just, whatever. Like, say, I'm putting as collateral a house in Germany. So from that point of view, the bank in Cyprus doesn't really care. It's just a matter of KYC accepting the money, due diligence, which is clear, fine, all happy. But you're right. How is it gonna be when the market starts becoming a bit more intermixed? And I guess one of the reasons why it hasn't, I can think of two. One is a small market, and maybe for banks outside of Cyprus, is not such a big enough market to kind of look into, and it's gonna be more the buyers kind of driving them there rather than the institutions themselves investing in Cyprus. That's number one. And number two is that until recently, there was a lack of transparency. The data that they could get was not at such a high level. And this is, however, some of the things that you guys or companies like you are
A
trying
company like that
to
has to do.
resolve.
Correct. But it's, the end is near, let's say.
Yeah.
It's going to happen at some point. And you see that even with some of the banks, the online banks, like Revolut and everybody else that is happening. But Revolut is key. You see that, I laugh when I see the Cypriot banks trying to fight, in inverted commas, against Revolut. And you see, like, Revolut has this feature. 6 months to a year later, a Cypriot bank will announce the same features. Like
Too late.
it's too late, and you are playing in the wrong field. Like the things that you guys are good at, or you should be good at, is that you know me and my father and everybody else. You know us for decades. We have a personal relationship.
Keep that
Keep
relationship.
that relationship. Keep that relationship. Take my money, invest it in do wealth management, do that type of services, right? Which you are bound to be good at. But when you say that, or when it's impossible to for them to make the switch off. And I think it at some point things will start breaking, and it's going to be interesting because it doesn't make sense, right? Like you said, you have financial institutions that are operating in a market of 1 million. Okay, they have one CTO, one chief technology officer. If I'm a bank that is operating in 6 countries across Eastern Europe and I add Cyprus, I still have one CTO. It doesn't change anything. So I'm always going to be able to undercut you and whatever. So is this thing that I see that it's at some point they will have issues. It's a matter of when rather than if.
And that's what drives innovation, right? The need to get better. Because so far we are in being a country of 1 million, the banking sector is in a controlled oligopoly kind of state, and it will always stay like that until it's not. And the problem with this kind of scenarios is that people in that industry will always think that it will always stay like that until it's not. And that's why I don't know, they are not more proactive. While, because we see in industries that there is more competition, you
They
either
are
grow
forced to change. They are forced to grow.
or they die.
Correct. And this is part of this confusion, if you like, that you also see. You have, for example, you say 1 in 4 people in Cyprus who live permanently here are from abroad. The government has been attracting and trying to attract companies to come here for headquartering. There are visa programs, there is this, there is that. Amazing. And you look at the state universities, and there's a whole discussion ongoing for years that they are not allowed to teach in English. You're like, can we please make our mind? What do we want to do? You want them to come or you don't want them to come? No. Come, yes, but stay in your corner. Don't go to a tavernas. Don't buy where we are. It's like this pseudo racist, love you, hate you situation, which it's very confusing because it doesn't set policy in the right way. Like, what are we trying to do? So you have one part of the country that is moving forward or in one direction, and the other part of the society that wants to stay stay more closely where it is. And this creates a lot of tension. And unfortunately, what it also creates, and we are seeing this, the same thing that happened with the British, again, 20 years ago in the mid 2000s, where what did we have? All the British got concentrated in mainly Pavlos and to a secondary extent in Larnaca, in specific areas. And then what you have is they did not become integrated in any way or form. So they go to the pub.
Yeah, they had their own night, their own.
They have their own plumber, their own this, whatever. What I see happening, and I hope I'm wrong, is that you have now our new arrivals, if I can call them that, over the last 2-3 years, who are now doing the same. So you have, they're like, look, I have the business, You have a school? Yes. Look, we will team up, and the kids from my business, I'll send them to you. And you have a hospital, don't you? Okay. The kids will go to you. We're happy between ourselves. So again, we will be left out from the game. And I think these are the things that the policymakers are. I think what you see is a lot of actions being undertaken to bring money in and have this flexibility and be good to change whatever. But then that comes into direct conflict with some of the policy decisions that are made at the top, and this creates a lot of issues.
Because we did a good job in like bringing people in, but so far we need to do a better job on keeping them. And not just keep them by means of creating infrastructure, which is of course very important, but keeping them in a way that they become an integrated part of the society, which society, as you said, needs to accept that 25% of it was not born here, and just get the good things out of it.
Yes, yes, because we have so much to learn,
Exactly.
right? Because it's, I mean, all this innovation that is happening in Cyprus on the tech side, since we are here, right? The new universities that have come, all these things that have branded even in real estate, branded residences. You look at some of the new properties that you guys are building. You're like, okay, where do the bricks and mortar stop, and where does the tech begin? Right? We have so many the tech that is built and has become one. All of this, in part, yes, is the regulations from the EU about energy efficiency, but the whole automations that happen in the household, the increased specs that are coming from the people from overseas who require and know and are willing to pay and able to pay for something more upgraded is there. So, like you said, it's how do we use this change for us to move forward? And unfortunately, I don't see it happening to the extent it should. And you see that also in the dichotomy between Nicosia and the other cities. Right? So Nicosia, that has traditionally been, and you can see that from the transaction volume, 90% of transactions in Nicosia, locals, 10% are foreigners. Right? Nicosia is a dying city. Like, dying city in what sense? You drive in Nicosia, the shops are closed, you have offices that are grade B, grade C, that are sort of miserable, whatever. Because Nicosia, being primarily government, banks, and let's say local institutions, are not willing to change. There's no reason for it to change. When you move to Limassol and to Paphos and then to Larnaca, I will not put Famagusta even on the map because they're a bit on their own. And you see the level of change that has happened across the board. Restaurants, infrastructure, especially here in Paphos, that has happened, the universities that have come in. So they have embraced the change. You have seen everybody has moved up. And this is the thing. Actually, in our own country, we can see the difference between, yes, we have all these people and investment that has come in. It split itself. Almost no one in Nicosia, very few companies, limited investment. And you see that the majority that has gone first in Limassol, then in Paphos, and then in Larnaca, how these things have changed because they embrace the change. And this is the thing that we need to see. And I see the difference here with Greece, where in Greece is exactly the opposite. It's the government that is pushing there's a call tomorrow. Tomorrow, by the way, this is Friday. At Friday at 5 o'clock, we have a call with the finance department of the Greek government, the Ministry of Finance. And I said to the guy, we were already there yesterday. I said, we're going to have a call on Friday at 5 with you're a government official. I mean, you finish, well, go home. He says, you don't understand. The pressure that we have as government sector to perform is a different level with this. And even between Christmas and New Year's, we were getting emails from them saying, and it's like, you guys were on holidays. I mean, leave us alone. Which is very strange to see. It is very strange because you see, Greece is, there's a lot to change there, but it is changing. Because but the change has started from the government. And I think this is where we are perhaps lacking. What you don't want to do, I think, is to then, if I go to the Romanian side, just to compare, where in Romania what happened, which in part has happened to us, is that after the fall of communism, a lot of foreign companies moved in. They acquired a lot of their assets, roads, the bank, whatever. And 30 years later, you sort of look around and you say, okay, a lot of the infrastructure in Romania is owned by foreigners.
I think I can continue listening to you for another couple of hours. Very interesting perspective. And as a closing remark, how do you envision technology and innovation further transforming the real estate industry in Cyprus?
Look, I think first of all, remind me this part of our conversation to send it to my wife, especially on weekends, right? So I can play this over and over again. Now, how do I see the change? I think the change is going to happen from technology brings transparency and speed. So I think the first thing is that we are going to see progressively. When I say progressively, I'm talking the next 1 to 2 years. Uh, uh, Only from the start that we are doing, right? So, we launched in Greece last month auto-generated valuation reports, not to value the property, right? So you click and the whole text is written with the photograph, the comparables, and everything. That means that a valuer from, let's say, 3 to 4 hours to value an apartment goes down to 15 minutes max. This is going to push, is one of the things that is going to force change. So you go to a developer or or somebody who's investing in real estate, and they will have the prices there and the rents and whatever at their fingertips. You want to convince somebody to buy something, they will have access to data. A lot of the professionals will need to become faster and more reliant on numbers. So this change will happen and is happening very, very quickly. In the next couple of years, it's going to happen. A lot of it driven by all the stuff that we have been saying. So, and I think what is forcing things to do is that it will clean up a lot of what people are doing with, let's say, or trying to do with this and that. I think what it also do is that it would give an edge to the smaller guys, the new investors who are more agile, to make more targeted investments, developments, and stuff like that. I think this is what we're going to change. Then, of course, we also need to play into consideration or take into consideration that all of these properties that are being constructed are going to move into property management, facilities management, and stuff like that. So that sector, which is growing, will grow even more. It will use technology to become more efficient. If they are smart, I haven't seen it yet, they will use different ways to track electricity usage, water usage, have analytics around occupancy rate, stuff like that, which means that they will be able to have better data, better models, become more efficient themselves for their clients to maximize profit. And I see that will lead to an even further growth in real estate as an investment. So it's like, we're building better buildings, they are more automations, more digital. That data will be used to manage them more efficiently from an operational perspective, and then that will lead to further investment into this area. So I can see that the transparency is going to lead to more investment. I think this is the big change that I see. As I said, I think it's going to happen in the next 2 years, if that.
So data says that good times are coming.
In terms of transaction investment, yes, there is a slowdown. Look, we saw the big boom after COVID, which then after the Russian-Ukraine war led to further amplification. Clearly, the situation in Israel has led into a further boost. So we had like 1, 2, 3 boosts, one after the other. What we are seeing over the last year is transactions being maintained in terms of transaction volume at the same level, but the top end of the market, let's call it 500,000 to 1 million, has slowed down, right?
Which kind of makes sense.
Which kind of makes sense, right? Because let's say I need a home, has changed to I want a home. So, so that has changed. What we are also seeing, but at the same time, and I have here the numbers for the last 2 years, we're talking about 2.2 billion of volume in real estate, only buffers. 2.2 billion. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. 1 billion in houses, 555 million in apartments. So the volume that we are talking about, slowdown and also, is huge. So it's there for the taking, and it's those who will use technology, numbers, data analytics to make their lives more efficient, bring transparency to their clients, and that will allow them to bring in more investment.
And take it like further to use those properties in a more efficient way.
For sure, for sure.
Perfect.
No?
Which has an impact also on other things like ESG,
Yes.
which the banks now require, insurance that is changing also because of climate change and whatever. So, and whoever owns the data
Wins the game.
wins the game.
Yeah. Pavlos, thank you very much for today. As Alexander said,
We
for me
could do
was
it for a couple of more hours
yeah,
on
it's
this kind of subject.
very interesting. It very unique approach to the market, and my humble opinion is that you're offering something that the market was missing. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
And thank you all for watching, and see you on the next episode. Bye.